As the world outside fades into night, settle in, take a deep breath, and let the quiet calm of this moment wash over you. Tonight, we step into a world where winter whispers its secrets, where snowflakes are more than they seem, and where magic waits just beyond the trees. Close your eyes and allow the peaceful rhythm of the story to guide you into a deep, restful sleep as we follow Arara, who on the edge of a small village hears the call of the first snowfall and embarks on a journey into a realm of frost, starlight, and ancient wonder. Let the soft snowfall surround you and drift peacefully into your dreams. The story begins now. On the edge of a small village, as the final autumn leaves surrendered to winter's whisper, Arara stood alone in the darkening evening. She breathed in the cold, crisp air, which smelled faintly of wood smoke and pine, savoring the quiet solitude. The world around her seemed to hold its breath in expectation, as if waiting for some ancient promise to be fulfilled. She had always loved the first snowfall, the mystery of it, the way it transformed the world into something timeless and pure. As she waited, she heard the faintest chiming sound, like crystal bells drifting on the night wind. She looked up, watching as the first delicate snowflakes began to fall from a sky heavy with clouds. They spiraled and twirled, each one seemingly alive with purpose, floating down in a dance that felt intentional, almost sentient. She stretched out a gloved hand, catching a snowflake on her fingertip, and marveling at its intricate design before it melted away as if to reveal a hidden secret. The snow began to fall in earnest, blanketing the ground, muffling all sound. But beneath that silence, Arara felt a presence, a faint hum that stirred the air around her. She squinted into the falling snow, and in the silvery moonlight, she saw something, or perhaps many things, moving between the trees. Glimmers of light that sparkled and vanished, as if the snow itself was alive. Her heart pounded, yet she felt no fear. It was as though she were on the edge of a long-forgotten memory, a moment that had always been waiting for her. The lights grew brighter, dancing in and out of sight, shimmering like stars trapped in a snowstorm. A voice, soft as the snow, but carrying an ancient strength, echoed in her mind, inviting her to step forward, to leave behind the known world and enter one touched by magic. With cautious steps, Arara followed the lights deeper into the woods. The paths she knew so well during the day seemed transformed in the night. The trees tall and spectral under their cover of frost. Snow crunched beneath her boots, the only sound in a world that seemed to belong to her alone. The further she walked, the brighter the lights became, until she could no longer tell where the snow ended and the lights began. Finally, the lights converged, forming a circle of flickering orbs that hovered just above the ground, illuminating a small clearing where the trees grew tall and shadowed. In the center of the clearing, she saw them, figures so delicate and ethereal they seemed woven from frost and starlight. They floated above the snow, each of them glowing faintly, their wings like delicate shards of ice that caught and refracted the moonlight. The fairies. Her breath caught in wonder as she watched them move, each fairy as unique as a snowflake, with shimmering, translucent wings and robes that flowed like the wind. Their faces were soft and radiant, though their expressions held a timeless wisdom, eyes deep as a winter night. They spoke to one another in whispers and laughter that sounded like the tinkling of bells, a language that seemed to exist outside of time. Arara felt herself drawn forward, as if an invisible thread connected her to these strange beings. One of them, taller than the rest, and with wings edged in silver frost, turned to look at her, a soft smile forming on her lips. Her eyes sparkled like the surface of a frozen lake filled with secrets. "Welcome, Arara," the fairy spoke, her voice a melody woven into the winter night. "We have waited for you, you who watch for the first snowfall, who cherish its mystery." Alara's heart raced, 1,000 questions crowding her mind, but she found herself unable to speak, overwhelmed by the surreal beauty before her. She could only listen, entranced, as the fairy continued. "We are the Snowfall Fairies," the fairy said, her words echoing in the clearing like a song. "We bring the first snow each year, a gift from the hidden world. And tonight, you are invited to step into our realm, to see winter as we see it." Arara felt a shiver run through her, not from cold, but from the sheer wonder of it. She had dreamed of magic as a child, of worlds beyond her own, but to see it here, to be invited into it, felt like the fulfillment of a longing she hadn't known she carried. The fairy extended her hand, a slender thing of frost and light. "Will you join us, Arara, and walk in the world of snow and stars?" Alara's voice returned to her, though it was barely more than a whisper. "Yes," she breathed, "I will." With that single word, a thrill of light burst from the fairies, swirling around her in a blizzard of shimmering dust. She felt herself lifted, her feet leaving the ground, her heart racing as the world shifted around her. The snow, the lights, the fairies, everything merged into a single, beautiful blur as Arara crossed the threshold, leaving behind the ordinary world. And as she floated there, embraced by the magic of the snowfall, she knew that she was stepping into a night that would be unlike any other. A night when dreams and winter's magic would become real. Arara felt the world shift around her, a sensation like falling and floating at once, suspended in a snow-laden dream. As the whirl of stardust and frost settled, she found herself standing on a path made of glistening snow, the surface shimmering with a light of its own. The air was thick with enchantment. each breath filling her lungs with a tingling sensation, as if the very air here held hidden powers. In the strange twilight that surrounded her, the Snowfall Fairies hovered, their wings stirring the air in rhythmic, silent beats. They moved with an ethereal grace, their laughter like whispered secrets, each note fading and merging with the snowfall. The tallest among them, the fairy who had first greeted her, glided forward, her silver-edged wings casting a delicate, iridescent glow. "Come, Arara," she said, extending her hand. "You are invited to share in the mysteries of our world, to witness the secrets only we, the Snowfall Fairies, hold." Arara took the fairy's hand, marveling at the icy coolness of her touch. It was a sensation both strange and comforting, like holding a handful of fresh snow that never melted. She glanced around as they began to move, her feet no longer touching the ground, but gliding just above it, buoyed by some unseen force. The other fairies surrounded them in a shimmering circle, their movements precise and fluid, creating a dance of lights that illuminated the path ahead. They led her deeper into the heart of this winter realm, where the landscape unfolded like a dream. Snow-dusted trees rose high, their branches curving and twisting into elaborate shapes, forming natural arches and towers that seemed to reach for the stars. Icicles hung like crystalline chandeliers from the branches, catching the pale glow of moonlight and reflecting it in fractured rainbows. The ground sparkled with untouched snow, pristine and radiant, as if this place had never known the step of any other creature. As they walked, the air grew warmer, yet still retained the crispness of winter. Snowflakes continued to fall, though they did not melt upon her skin. Instead, they lingered, settling on her shoulders, her hair adding a shimmer to her figure that made her feel almost like one of the fairies. "You have always felt the call of the first snow, haven't you?" the fairy asked, her voice soft but clear, carrying a weight of ancient understanding. "There is a longing in you, a wish to see beyond what others can perceive." Arara nodded, too captivated to speak. It was true. Since she was a child, the first snowfall had always held a special place in her heart. There was something about it that seemed to promise magic, a hidden world just out of reach, waiting for her to discover it. And now, that world had found her. The fairy's gaze softened, her eyes gleaming like polished ice. "Not everyone is invited into our realm, Arara. Only those who seek wonder without knowing it, those who see magic in the ordinary, are chosen." As they walked, they passed pools of frozen water, their surfaces perfectly smooth and reflecting the stars as if they held galaxies within them. The fairies paused by one such pool, urging her to look down. As she gazed into the icy mirror, she saw her own reflection, but it was as if she were peering into a different version of herself. A figure surrounded by swirling snowflakes. her face aglow with a light she had never known. "This is the gift of the Snowfall Fairies," the fairy said softly, her voice a whisper in Alara's mind, "to reveal to those who dare to dream the beauty that lies hidden in plain sight. Tonight, we will share with you the ancient rites of winter, our songs, our dances, our secrets." In that moment, Arara understood that this invitation was not merely to witness magic, but to become part of it. She felt as though she was stepping into a forgotten legend, a story as old as winter itself, where snow was not just cold or silent, but alive, a memory woven by the hands of the fairies and carried on each flake that fell. The fairy placed her hand gently on Alara's shoulder, meeting her gaze with a look that held both mystery and kindness. "Tonight, you will learn the secrets of the snowfall, the way it whispers to those who listen, the way it binds the world in a veil of silence so that dreams may be heard." They resumed their journey, the path leading them to a clearing where the snow seemed deeper, untouched and shimmering under a light that came from nowhere and everywhere. The fairies encircled her, their wings lifting them gracefully off the ground. Each one extended their arms toward her, palms open, revealing small crystals, snowflakes perfectly preserved, glistening as if carved from starlight. Lysandra, the fairy with the silver-frosted wings, held her snowflake out to Arara. "Take it," she murmured, her voice almost reverent. "It is a token of your invitation into our world. As long as you hold it, you are one of us, a keeper of winter's magic." Arara reached out, her fingers trembling, and took the snowflake from Lysandra's hand. It was cold, but comforting, and as she held it, she felt a surge of energy flow through her, filling her with the silent strength of snow and the quiet promise of the first frost. "Now, Arara," Lysandra said, her voice barely a whisper. "Come with us, and we will show you winter as you have never seen it before." The fairies drifted forward, drawing her along in their circle, and together they left the clearing, venturing deeper into the enchanted forest, where the mysteries of the snowfall awaited her. Arara drifted forward with the Snowfall Fairies, her feet grazing the snow-covered ground as if she were lighter than air. The crystalline snowflake they had given her lay cool in her hand, its faint glow pulsing like a heartbeat, tethering her to this enchanted world. As they moved deeper into the forest, she felt the air thicken with magic, each breath filling her with a sense of awe and timelessness. The forest around them grew denser, the trees towering higher, with branches arched into intricate patterns, forming natural gateways that led them forward. Silver frost clung to each branch, glittering in the soft, spectral light cast by the fairies. The snow on the ground sparkled under their glow, as if sprinkled with shards of stars, untouched by any earthly hand. Every step she took felt like stepping into a dream, each snowflake catching her eye with a unique pattern, as if telling her its own story. Lysandra, the fairy who had first spoken to her, hovered just ahead, leading the way. Her wings fluttered with a grace that seemed to command the air itself, and as Arara watched, she saw that the snowflakes did not fall around Lysandra. They rose, drawn toward her as if she were their guiding star. The other fairies followed in a silent dance, their movements so fluid that they seemed part of the snow-laden wind, each one blending seamlessly into the winter night. "Here," Lysandra said, gesturing to the path as it opened up to reveal a clearing bathed in a gentle, otherworldly light. "This is the heart of our realm, where the first snowfall is born each year." The clearing held an array of trees unlike any Arara had ever seen. Their trunks were impossibly white, with bark that shimmered like ice, smooth and flawless. The branches stretched upward, and at the tips of each bough bloomed what seemed to be frozen flowers, delicate, translucent petals made of frost, each one casting a soft glow that illuminated the entire grove. Between the branches, strands of gossamer threads, so fine they were almost invisible, connected the trees, forming an intricate web that glistened with droplets of frozen dew. "The trees of winter's memory," Lysandra murmured, her voice reverent, and Arara noticed that the other fairies grew quiet, their faces softened with awe. Each flower holds the memory of a winter's first snow, a unique story whispered by each flake as it falls. Only we, the Snowfall Fairies, can hear them. Arara looked closer at the frost flowers, mesmerized by their beauty. Each petal seemed to move slightly, as if stirred by an unseen wind. As she watched, she felt a faint humming in the air, and slowly the whispers began to emerge. A soft, melodic murmuring, as if the flowers themselves held ancient songs within them. "What do they say?" Arara asked, barely daring to breathe, afraid the sound of her voice might break the spell. Lysandra's gaze turned inward, her eyes reflecting the glow of the frost flowers. "They sing of all the moments they have witnessed," she said softly. "The dreams that children whisper to the snow, the silent wishes of travelers seeking warmth, the unspoken prayers of those who look to the sky in wonder. The first snowfall gathers them all and brings them here, preserving them in a winter's breath." Arara reached out a hand to touch one of the frost flowers, her fingers tingling as they brushed its icy surface. The hum grew louder, clearer, and she could suddenly hear fragments of the voices, distant and faint. A child's laugh, the sigh of a weary traveler, a whispered promise. Each sound lingered for a heartbeat before dissolving, merging into the greater symphony of winter's memories. As she pulled her hand away, a sense of calm settled over her, as though she had glimpsed something profoundly beautiful and fleeting. It was a feeling that both filled her and left her hollow, a reminder that the beauty of winter lay in its transience, in the way it could touch a heart only to vanish with the warmth of spring. The fairies around her began to sway, moving in a silent dance, their wings shimmering as they circled the clearing. The frost flowers responded, their glow intensifying, filling the grove with a soft, ethereal light. Lysandra raised her hands, and the snow began to fall again, each flake descending slowly, spiraling down as if carried by invisible threads. Arara joined them, allowing herself to be drawn into their rhythm. She moved with the fairies, feeling their ancient knowledge seep into her. Understanding that this dance was a celebration of winter's mysteries, a ritual as old as the snow itself. She felt the snowflakes against her skin, each one cold but gentle, a fleeting touch that reminded her of her own place in the world, small, yet connected to something vast and beautiful. As they danced, Arara sensed the whispers of the first snow all around her, filling the air with stories of hopes, dreams, and quiet moments shared with the winter night. She closed her eyes, letting herself be swept into the dance, surrendering to the magic of the Snowfall Fairies and their world of frost and starlight. When she opened her eyes, the fairies had paused, their wings folding delicately as they gazed at her with expressions of warmth and welcome. Lysandra approached her, holding out her hand once more. "You have glimpsed the heart of our realm," she said, her voice barely more than a whisper. "And now, Arara, you are ready to take part in the dance of snow and stars." Arara felt her heart swell with wonder and anticipation. She could barely comprehend the words, yet somehow she understood. She was part of the snowfall now, bound to the mysteries of winter and the secrets it carried. The fairies' invitation was no longer just an offer. It was a gift, a chance to truly belong to the world of snow and stars, if only for one magical night. The clearing transformed as the fairies gathered around Arara, their shimmering forms illuminating the winter night like constellations come to life. Snow continued to fall in a delicate, unbroken rhythm, each flake spinning slowly, caught in the glow of the fairies' ethereal light. The air was thick with anticipation, an unspoken energy building as they prepared for the dance of snow and stars, a ritual both ancient and sacred. Lysandra stepped forward, her silvered wings casting soft patterns across the snow, and gave Arara an encouraging smile. "Tonight, Arara, we dance not just for winter's first snow, but for the mysteries it holds. Let your heart be light as the snowflakes, and let the stars guide you." Arara felt a thrill run through her, a spark of magic awakening within her soul, urging her to surrender to this enchantment. She felt herself lift ever so slightly off the ground, as if the snow beneath her held a secret buoyancy. Around her, the other fairies rose as well, their wings fluttering softly, carrying them into a graceful formation. Then, In perfect unison, they began to move. The fairies circled Arara, their wings trailing stardust and snowflakes that drifted like threads of silver. Each movement was gentle yet powerful, their arms tracing patterns in the air, gestures that seemed to mimic the shape of snowflakes, of constellations, of dreams yet unrealized. Arara followed, her body responding instinctively, as if she had always known this dance. Her arms lifted, her feet glided, and her spirit soared with a freedom she had never known. Above them, the sky was an endless expanse of night, scattered with stars that flickered like distant memories. With each movement, the fairies drew those stars closer, calling them down as if they were the snowflakes' celestial kin. Slowly the stars seemed to descend, growing brighter and larger, as though the heavens themselves had come to witness this dance. The music of the fairies' laughter filled the clearing, mingling with the whispers of the first snowfall. It was a sound both joyous and haunting, like a melody woven from fragments of forgotten dreams. Arara felt herself becoming lighter, her form merging with the falling snow and the rising stars, until she could no longer tell where she ended, and the winter night began. She was part of this sacred dance, bound to the rhythm of the snow and the pulse of the stars. Lysandra spun beside her, reaching out to take Alara's hands. In that touch, Arara felt a rush of memories, ancient and beautiful, images of other winters, other nights, when the first snowfall had been celebrated in secret. She saw glimpses of travelers who had paused to watch the snow, children who had laughed at the first flakes, elders who had whispered wishes to the winter sky. All those moments, all those lives, intertwined with the snow, preserved in the dance of the fairies. "This is our gift," Lysandra whispered, her voice filled with a reverence that seemed to echo from ages past. "We keep the stories of those who watched the first snow, those who dream and wish, for they are part of winter's soul. Tonight, Arara, you have joined us, and you too shall be remembered." The words filled Arara with a warmth that defied the winter's chill. She felt as though her heart had expanded, stretching across time and space, connecting her to every soul who had ever marveled at the snow. She twirled and laughed, her spirit soaring, letting go of everything except this one perfect moment. She was no longer a traveler, no longer a mere observer. She was part of the snow, the stars, the memories etched into the season's first breath. As they danced, Arara noticed that the stars above had arranged themselves into new constellations, shapes she had never seen before. Some were familiar, shapes of animals, a tree, a hand reaching upward. But others were strange, mysterious, forming patterns that seemed to tell stories known only to the stars and snow. One particular constellation caught her eye, a series of stars forming the outline of a heart surrounded by soft spirals. She felt a pull toward it, sensing a story within its light, a tale of longing, of hope, of a wish made in the quiet of a winter's night. She wondered if it was her own heart reflected back to her, or the heart of the snow itself, the spirit of winter opening itself for her to see. Finally, the dance slowed, the fairies' movements becoming softer, as if the energy that had carried them was settling, like snowflakes drifting to the ground. The stars above returned to their places, shimmering faintly as though bidding farewell. The fairies gathered around Arara, their faces warm and serene, their wings folding gently as they bowed their heads in silent gratitude. Lysandra took Ilara's hands one final time, her touch gentle yet filled with the weight of all the winter nights she had ever known. "The dance of snow and stars is complete," she whispered. "You have danced with us, seen our world, and held winter's secrets. When you return to your world, remember this night. Remember that you too are part of winter's magic." Arara nodded, her eyes shimmering with tears of wonder and gratitude. She could feel the weight of the night settling into her heart, becoming a memory that would stay with her always, a secret to carry and cherish. As the fairies drew away, Lysandra let go of her hands, her smile soft and knowing. The clearing seemed to brighten for one last moment, the light of the stars mingling with the glow of the fairies, casting a final brilliant gleam across the snow. Arara closed her eyes, imprinting this moment in her mind, feeling the last whispers of the dance fade around her, knowing that she had been part of something eternal, something pure and beautiful. She was ready to return, her heart forever changed by the dance of snow and stars. The first light of dawn stretched across the clearing, painting the snow with hues of rose and gold. Arara stood quietly, a lingering sense of wonder filling her as the fairies gathered around her one last time. She could feel the magic beginning to lift, like a delicate veil that had covered her and was now slowly dissipating. Her heart ached with the beauty of it all, the knowledge that this night, so vivid and timeless, was coming to an end. Lysandra stepped forward, her silver-frosted wings catching the morning light in a final brilliant shimmer. She reached out, her hand cupping something small, fragile and crystalline. As she opened her palm, Arara saw it was a single flawless snowflake, glowing faintly with the essence of winter's magic. "Take this," Lysandra whispered, her voice soft and filled with the weight of the night's memories. "A token of the snowfall, a gift of the first snow's secret." Arara reached out, and as her fingers touched the snowflake, she felt a warmth spread through her hand, as if the tiny crystal held the very heart of winter within it. It pulsed with a faint light, mirroring her own heartbeat, as if binding itself to her, making her a keeper of winter's mystery. Lysandra met her gaze, her eyes deep with an ancient understanding. "The first snow is more than the changing of a season," she said. "It is a bridge, a passage between worlds. It gathers the dreams of those who marvel at it, the wishes of those who whisper into its silence. And now, Arara, you carry that secret with you. Each winter, as the first snow falls, it will call to you, reminding you of this night." A sadness mixed with gratitude welled up in Alara's heart. She knew this gift, this memory, would stay with her forever. A quiet part of her soul that belonged to the world of the Snowfall Fairies. She wanted to say something, to thank Lysandra and the fairies for showing her this hidden magic. But words felt too small, too limited to capture the depth of her feeling. Sensing her emotion, Lysandra placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Do not mourn, Arara," she said softly. "You are now part of our story, as we are part of yours. Whenever you see the first snow, know that we are there, dancing between the flakes, whispering our ancient songs to those who listen." The fairies around her smiled, their faces filled with warmth and farewell. One by one, they began to lift, their wings glimmering as they rose into the air, swirling around her in a final dance. A farewell that sparkled with the last traces of stardust and magic. She watched them drift higher, their forms growing smaller as they joined the snowflakes, blending seamlessly with the dawn-lit sky. And then, Lysandra was the last, her gaze lingering on Arara with a look of deep affection. She raised a hand, a soft farewell, before her wings lifted her into the air, carrying her upward to join her sisters among the branches and the stars. Arara stood alone, holding the crystalline snowflake, feeling the stillness of the clearing settle around her. The silence was both a comfort and a bittersweet reminder of the night she was leaving behind. As the last glimmer of the fairies faded into the morning, Arara felt her feet touch solid ground again. The world around her shifted, becoming familiar. The trees, the snowy path leading back to her village. She was herself again, wrapped in her winter cloak, though now she carried a secret within her heart, a memory that shimmered quietly beneath her surface. She looked down at the snowflake in her hand, its faint glow pulsing like a tiny heartbeat. She knew that it held the memory of her night with the Snowfall Fairies, a piece of the winter world that she could keep with her always. She slipped it carefully into her pocket, feeling its cool weight settle against her, grounding her, reminding her that she had been part of something eternal, something beautiful. The first rays of sunlight began to melt the snow on the trees, sending droplets of water down like fleeting stars. As she walked back toward her village, the snow crunched beneath her feet, the ordinary sound carrying a new significance. She glanced back once, half expecting to see a glimmer of wings or a whisper of light, but the forest was silent, resting under the morning sun. But even in that silence, Arara could still feel the magic. the memory of her dance with the fairies, the lightness in her step that came from knowing the secret of the first snow. She walked on, feeling a gentle sense of peace, as though she had been given something precious, something that could never fade, even as the seasons changed. When she reached the edge of the village, she paused, looking back at the snowy path she had left. She touched her pocket, feeling the snowflakes' cold, familiar presence, and smiled. From that day forward, she knew that each year, with the first snowfall, she would listen for the fairies' song, knowing that somewhere, in a realm beyond sight, they were dancing, keeping winter's magic alive. And as she returned to her village, she carried with her not just a memory, but a promise, one that would last as long as winter itself, as long as the first snowfall fell in silence, inviting dreamers and wanderers into its mystery, reminding them that magic is as real as the snow beneath.